Hey, on today's show, we've got a big thing to talk about, Tua Tagovailoa. And before we even get started, you got to let me know in the comments, do you think he's the future of this organization? It's real simple. If so, you're all in, type Y for yes. If not, type N for no. And let's discuss on Dolphins Today. And welcome into this edition of Dolphins Today. We've got a lot to discuss as Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel address the media. And on everyone's mind, mine included, the future of Tua Tagovailoa. A lot has been made about his contract situation. Is it time to extend Tua Tagovailoa? Has he done enough? We will discuss. We'll also break down everything Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel said in that press conference. And ultimately, it's all about the future. What is the future of the Miami Dolphins at the quarterback position? Is it, in fact, Tua Tagovailoa, or is it time to look elsewhere? So buckle up, dial it in, and let's discuss. And in order to adequately represent Tua Tagovailoa, I think there's a lot on both sides of the aisle. The good, the bad, maybe a little bit in between. So let's start with the contract situation. Last year, the Dolphins picked up the fifth-year option of that rookie contract, and there was a lot of reasons to do so. Probably most notably at the forefront of all that was the question of Tua's durability. Obviously, the injury play a huge role in that in the past, and this year in 2017, or in 2023, proved that he could play all 17 games and that he could stay healthy. But when you look in comparison to that 2020 quarterback draft class, obviously there are some big names on that list. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert come to mind. And oh yeah, Joe Burrow got the bag in 2023. And despite a lot of injury concerns, Cincinnati is all in on Joe Burrow. And obviously he's proven that by taking them to a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Justin Herbert also had his a new contract in 2023. And that means Tua Tagovailoa stands alone from those big three quarterbacks drafted in 2020 as a player still on that rookie contract, with the Dolphins picking up his fifth year. And again, this was last year. So fast forward to this past season, it was a prove-it year for Tua Tagovailoa in a lot of different ways. He had to stay healthy. He had to prove that he could play 17 games, and he played a full season for the Dolphins. Take a look at how he performed. And I know I've read the comments. You're sick of the numbers. There's more to that, Riepma. I get that, but it's worth noting. Led the NFL in passing yards. Yards per attempt, second behind Brock Purdy. As far as completion percentage of quarterbacks that threw at least 500 passes, he ranked third. Now, the passing touchdowns tied for fifth. A couple of guys came on late, Jordan Love and a couple other guys in the NFC to pass him. So tied for fifth, still in that upper echelon in that category. And ultimately the passer rating, again, among players with the qualified of at least 500 passes thrown, he ranks fourth. So statistically speaking, check. Tua had a very good season. The Dolphins, though, did fall short of a lot of their goals. And among them, obviously, was winning the AFC East, which they had a chance to do. And that is probably the biggest knock on Tua Tagovailoa and these Dolphins as a whole. They couldn't win the big game. They couldn't win on the road. Just 1-6 versus teams that were good. So I've heard the arguments. Tua just builds up the stats against bad teams. I have heard that. Ultimately, it boils down to what your confidence level is in Tua Tagovailoa in 2024. Scale it for me in the comments, 1 through 10. If you believe he's the unquestioned leader of this team, go ahead and let me know with a 10. If you think it's time to look elsewhere, let me know with a 1. Now, coming up, we're going to discuss what the boss had to say about Tua Tagovailoa and his future, because I can say this, you can say this, that, and the other, but it depends on what this front office wants to do, and we will discuss that next. But first, I want to give a huge shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, Factor, America's #1 meal delivery service. And here we are in 2024. You got people posting selfies on Instagram at the gym, all about their New Year's resolutions, saying they lost this, they lost that. But how about just making choices that yield to success? And part of that is with your diet. And there's a lot of different obstacles or hurdles to overcome with all that. And Factor does exactly that. They eliminate the time spent at the grocery store. Say goodbye to cleaning up after your meal. With Factor, there are no dishes to take care of. And oh yeah, by the way, the meals are fresh, never frozen, and delivered straight to your door. They take just 2 minutes to heat up. So in 2024, make some decisions that lead to success in your diet. That's where Factor meals come in. And plus, with over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options that will help kickstart those choices leading to success. Tons of different options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more. And like I've mentioned, my favorite part, the cleanup or lack thereof. You simply toss it away and the mess is gone. I love me the Chipotle pork chop. How about the roasted red pepper filet as well? Great meal options that also fill you up and only take 2 minutes to heat up. So don't waste any more time. Head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. Riepma, you got to be kidding me. No, I'm not. I promise you. 50% off when you head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use that code FinsChat50. And what do I always tell you? We love you and we care about you, so we'll put that link right in the comments so you have no excuse. It's that easy. factormeals.com/FinsChat50 to get 50% off. Now, weighing in on what the boss had to say, and I'm not talking Mike McDaniel, I'm talking the GM, Chris Grier, weighed in at a press conference yesterday, a pretty standard operating procedure there, a press conference after the season is over. Obviously, the Dolphins were eliminated from playoff contention over the weekend. And when asked about Tua Tagovailoa's future, here's what Chris Grier had to say. Now, it's a little bit vanilla, but I do think it sends a message saying, quote, "We've stayed in touch with his agent, had good conversations throughout the year. The goal is to have him here long term." Let me reiterate that. Chris Grier said the goal is to have him here long term. That's regarding Tua Tagovailoa's future with the Miami Dolphins. Now, he didn't say we're going to throw him the bag and give him this huge contract and we're all in, but the verbiage is important. The goal is to have Tua as the Miami Dolphins quarterback long term. So that tells me Tua is, in fact, the future of this franchise. Now, how about Mike McDaniel? He also spoke at the year-end press conference, and when asked about Tua Tagovailoa, he said, "I want to see him make sure the curve continues to be exponential in his growth." We know from watching Hard Knocks, Mike McDaniel, big growth guy. He also went on to say, "What we have seen is him learn from all things that he goes through." So McDaniel really emphasizing the continuous improvement. And I think Tua showed a ton of improvement individually in 2023, starting with being available for every single game. And again, I get the knock. The knock certainly needs to fall on the shoulders of the quarterback. They can't win on the road. They can't win in cold weather. And that's playoff football in a lot of senses. And that's a big reason why this Dolphins team has the longest active streak without a postseason win. Now, it doesn't all fall on Tua Tagovailoa's shoulders, but sure, he is a part of that equation. Now, some very well-respected names in the NFL broadcasting ranks also spoke about Tua recently, starting with Greg Olsen, who, my preference aside, I think he's one of the absolute best, incredible on the call, a wealth of knowledge, obviously, from his time playing in the NFL as well. But he was on the Colin Cowherd Show, and it really had a lengthy explanation. I'll share it with you on Twitter, but summarized by saying to overreact all of a sudden that Tua isn't the answer. Change for the sake of change sounds great. It's fun to talk about, but when you boil it down, who are you getting? And I think that's a very good question to pose for all of the Tua naysayers out there. If you don't want him, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's your prerogative. But as an action plan moving forward then, what does this franchise look like at the quarterback position, which we all know is the most important position in sports? If you're not winning at the quarterback position in the NFL, you have no chance. And I think Tua has proven he gives you a chance to win from the quarterback position based on his statistical output, based on his body of work, and so on and so forth. It's ultimately a team game. And I think Greg Olsen's saying, if you get rid of Tua, then what? Change for change is fun to talk about, but actually putting together a game plan moving forward without Tua, what does that really look like? Now, Kurt Warner, NFL Network, obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the all-time great Super Bowl winning champions, so on and so forth. Guy knows quarterback play. And I thought this quote was pretty interesting regarding Tua Tagovailoa. He said, Tua anticipates better than anyone and is extremely accurate with the football. Two very important components of playing quarterback. He went on to say, few people in the league would thrive doing what they asked Tua to do in Miami. And again, I'm not saying because Greg Olsen backed Tua, because Kurt Warner backed Tua, that you should too. We're just putting everything out there as it relates to the future of the most important position in sports, the quarterback, and for this conversation's sake, obviously the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Now, Chris Grier, I think, again, is probably the most important person to consider in all this, the general manager of the Miami Dolphins, and I think you could summarize his press conference with this quote. He said, quote, "We're very excited about our core nucleus of players." Okay, core nucleus of players, you would certainly include the quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. So again, I'm not telling you how to feel. Everybody has an opinion on this, which is what makes it fun to discuss. But given the fact that Tua is due in a contract extension, they picked up his 5th year, I would expect something to happen in the sense that this team is invested in Tua Tagovailoa, and the future of the Miami Dolphins is with Tua at the helm. Now, I want you to get out your red pen as we wrap it up here on Dolphins Today and give Tua Tagovailoa a grade as an NFL quarterback. If you believe he's among the elite, go ahead and give him an A. If you think he's at the very bottom, maybe it's an F or somewhere in between. But as always, appreciate everyone's participation with our content here on Dolphins Today. Love reading every comment. That's what makes it so fun, and I think it's going to be a very enjoyable offseason for the Miami Dolphins, because that bitter taste is in the mouth of every single person within that organization, and ending the longest postseason streak without a win is certainly at the forefront of everyone's mind. So make sure you're with us every step of the way. As the Dolphins have a first-round pick this year, that's something exciting. They also certainly will be active in this offseason leading up to what should be a revenge year next year. So subscribe to the channel. We've got a video for you every single day on Dolphins Today, and appreciate your support of the largest Dolphins YouTube community out there. We're covering the aqua and orange from every single angle. Shout out to producer Jack Lauderay on the ones and twos. And hey, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.